This is Qtv News and I am Jennifer Sonko. Thanks for joining us. Now the main local, international and sports news headlines. Along with the 21-day curfew, there are now new opening times for banks. We find out what they are. 842 people are stopped by immigration officials from making illegal entry into the country using unofficial border crossings. Bassa youths have joined with their district council and the Gambia Red Cross Society to take part in a fumigation exercise around the town. In international news, the presidents of Guinea-Conakry and Ivory Coast have recently announced their intentions to seek third terms in office. We'll look in detail at the case of Ivory Coast. According to German media, the country's Deutsche Bank has agreed to release President Trump's financial records to U.S. investigators. In sports news, Gambia's football captain is currently without a club as his most recent employers haven't extended his current deal and he is absent from their latest squad photo. The RC Congo's Chancel Mbemba has a season to remember in Portugal as he scores twice to seal a league and cup double with FC Porto. It's a case of better late than never as the Cameroon squad from Italia 90 finally get the houses promised to them 30 years ago. Those were the main headlines and now the news in detail. Do stay with us. Thank you for joining us. Now in local news, the Gambia Bankers Association, with approval from the Central Bank of the Gambia, have changed the working hours of all banks in the country amidst the new regulations due to the coronavirus contamination measures. Babukar C has more on that.
The COVID-19 pandemic has brought a lot of changes to all sectors across the country, with the new restrictions introduced to curb the spread of the virus, including the announcement that markets will be closed on Sundays. The Bankers Association of the Gambia have had their request approved by the Central Bank of the Gambia for a change of opening hours. The temporary changes will see all banks across the country close operations at 3 p.m. instead of 4 p.m. The new development was revealed to us by Alaji Jeng, a board member of the Gambia Bankers Association.
We found out that most of our member staffs are family women and they are married and they need to go to the market to do their normal shoppings. So we have small changes. It's not just much, but small changes just to comply with government directive. We said, as an association, we thought it wise yesterday, look, let's, in consultation with Central Bank, we try to bring the working hours reduced early so that our members can reach home. Because if you close at 4 and you live in all the way to Combo South, because most of our staff work from Combo South to the Combo, to the Greater Banjul area. So maybe before they reach to their houses, it might be late. And we said 10 o'clock everyone should be indoors. We thought it wise as managing director of banks, think that, okay, let's come up with this idea of instead of closing 4, we close by 3 p.m. And Fridays, we will be closing at 1:30 instead of 4 o'clock. 1:30, the banks will be closed. Then Saturday, we don't want to open our banks. We want to give the opportunity to our member staff to go for their shoppings, to go for their normal business. Because Sunday, according to government, the banks, the markets will not open.
Jeng also stressed the need to follow the WHO and the Ministry of Health guidelines in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. According to him, the banks were among the first institutions to strictly implement the wearing of face masks and observing social distancing and promoting the use of ATMs across the country. Our premises, people need our premises. So we introduce what we call digital banking by promoting our ATMs so that members can use the ATM on our POSs. Because I remember the first interview I had with the people, I told them we have over 117 ATM machines which our members can use. And these machines are very, very friendly and it's very easy to use. If you go to most of our branches, we have tents, if not all, we have tents outside, which we put customers and we bring in them one by one, train, even the security officers whom we employed, we train them to how to handle people social distancing. If you go to our branches, all our branches nationwide, you will be happy. Because each bank, we make sure that as an association, we work with management, we work with the members to make sure that they come to our premises, do banking, enjoy banking, and they will not be infected with the corona. We started this, even the mask. We started this since long time before it was put as a directive. The new changes to the banking system start immediately. From Mondays to Thursdays, operation hours will be from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m.
and on Fridays from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. On Saturdays, there will be no banking services across the country. The new rules are expected to last until the government and the health ministry advise about changes depending on the coronavirus situation in the country. Babukar Si, Qtv News.
Gambia's borders remain closed due to the coronavirus restrictions, but there continues to be attempts of illegal entry to the country, mainly facilitated by motor taxis. Officials of the Gambia Immigration Department have reported that 842 people have been intercepted at the Barab border post and other satellite areas in less than 2 months. Mamadou Lamin Choi has the rest of that.
Border closure has been a common emergency restriction implemented in most countries around the globe to reduce the spread of coronavirus. Since March, following a presidential declaration of the state of public emergency, Gambia's borders remain closed. The Gambia shares borders only with Senegal, most of which are porous or non-existent. Immigration officers have mounted checkpoints to stop illegal entry into the Gambia from Senegal, but motorcycle taxi drivers have reportedly been mainly the smugglers of people into the country using unofficial border points. In the North Bank region alone, at least 32 motorbikes have been impounded in the last 2 weeks, and a total of 842 people intercepted between mid-June and the first week of August as a result of illegal entry attempts through irregular routes into the Gambia.
Establish patrol units that we send around, to be patrolling the long borders. Well, so you will realize that our borders with Senegal are too long, and we don't have official checkpoints or official entry points, all along the border. So these patrol units will help to make sure that they deter the movement of people through, illicit routes or otherwise, unrecognized border entry points.
The Immigration Department's bureau revealed that 52 out of the 842 people intercepted are Gambians who have been handed over for quarantine, and the remaining ones who are non-Gambians deported.
I think you must have seen it yourself. While we were entering Amdallah, we met a patrol unit, that was carrying a lot of people that they have intercepted at a particular point. So these things are, usually on a daily basis. Anytime they go on patrols, they get some catches, who are trying to enter the country or leave the country through irregular means.
Following another declaration of the state of public emergency, a delegation of the Gambia Immigration Department, led by their Chief of Operations, have conducted a tour to the Amdalai, Farafanya and Bara border posts in the North Bank region to reinforce the message to immigration border post officers the need for a strict border surveillance to enforce the regulations and thus prevent further importation of COVID-19 cases into the Gambia.
Our principal goal is to make sure that we deter the movement of people across the borders. We want to make sure that we uphold the government decision of closing the borders to make sure that it serves as a deterrent for the movement of people in the face of this fight against coronavirus.
In the last few weeks, there has been a spike in community transmissions of the virus after most of the country's previously reported COVID-19 cases were imported. Tight borders are a necessity during this time when the virus is spreading at an alarming rate in the Gambia and neighboring Senegal. Mamadou Lamin Choi, Qtv News.
The youths of Basse, the Town Development Committee and the Red Cross have added to the efforts to combat coronavirus by fumigating public places in their town. Alaji A.F. Jallo reports.
The youths of Basse, the Town Development Committee and the Red Cross have added to the efforts to combat coronavirus by fumigating public places in their town. Since it was first identified in the country, the novel coronavirus has had a devastating impact on economic and social activities. Initially, many did not take it seriously. Now, however, it has proven impossible to escape its impact on all aspects of our lives. It has prompted government to take ever more stringent measures, including the imposition of a 21-day curfew as well as an almost complete lockdown, with non-essential shops and stalls forced to close. In recognizing that coronavirus impact all over our lives, Basse Youth, in collaboration with the Red Cross and the Town Development Committee, took the initiative to fumigate all public places, including banks, money exchange bureaus, markets, and garages. During the exercise, Mr. Abubakar Kurbali, a concerned native of Basse, said every individual has a pivotal role to play in combating this deadly virus, and that despite the existence of the regional task force, the fight against COVID-19 should be everybody's business rather than waiting for action from mandatory institutions.
A local effort from the VDC or otherwise the TDC coming down to the Red Cross and the concerned youth of this town and other people of the town came together without waiting for any authority or waiting for government to see to it that we are able to fumigate some of the key public places, especially along the road. It has been a blessing in disguise, having people to close down at 2 o'clock. We thought it fitting to come down to those areas where people interact mostly during the day so that we can do fumigation exercise. It's a local initiative.
Ibrahim Abba, a youth activist and one of the initiators of the fumigating exercise, said youths make up to 60% of the country's population and are alive with vigor, and as such should take the lead in this fight.
Initiative from the youths of Basse initiated this, and then we invited the Red Cross, with the support of Red Cross and the Town Development Committee. The chairman and the executive, they are all here to help us fumigate all the town, public places, particularly the banks and the other areas. This is why today we are here.
The Gambia Red Cross is recognized for being proactive in times of humanitarian assistance and during disasters. The Red Cross URR branch officer, Dauda Sankare, mentioned the need for people to take this pandemic seriously and further call for concerted effort to fight against this deadly disease.
You know, the virus is always on surfaces. So fumigating the surface will help us to at least to prevent the infection, the spread of the virus. So also we started fumigating our institutions, but we see it is necessary. Hence, shops, markets are closing at 2 o'clock. So there is a need to fumigate the entire public places. You know, the banks, the markets, the financial institutions are the places that people normally go every day in and out. And Basse is an epicenter of the region. And people from all over the region normally come back in Basse here. So we said there is a need to fumigate the public places.
In the quest of serving your country, ask not what your country can do for you, but rather what you can sacrifice for your country. The Basse youths, the Town Development Committee, and concerned natives are doing exactly what the country requested during this difficult period, but more proactive fight is needed from regional authorities, institutions, businessmen, and individuals in order to see a zero case of COVID-19 in URR and the Gambia as a whole. Reporting for Qtv News, I am Alaji A.F. Jallo.
Well, thumbs up to the youths of Basse. We will go for a short commercial break, and when we come back, the news continues with international and sports news. Do stay tuned.
Jangan yang nice dek. Hana da nga gena?
Gena? Dedet. Jonge si sal, jonge si wañ. Mange toga.
Sa hari mata yi ak sanse bi. Ya xamani man ma jaxle. Suma di jaay ak xaritam ya wara ñu añ ci tay. Te ma ngi ni suma mata yi kër yi ñepp toy. Xawma nu ma def.
Man dumay toge mata legi Oryx gas lay toge. Wora, gawna, yombana, tay do ci tilim. Ñaar la ci jënd nak. Xarama abal la ben ndax nga baña naaja.
Oryx gas moog ñun ba faw. Oryx gas mun nga ko am ci bépp Atlas station ci biir réew mi.
Nanga dem na mën naa la de.
Maa ya.
Waa Fatima.
Waaw.
Kii laa fi ñëwoon ngénte.
Moom la.
Waa Fatima yow lan mooy sa secret?
Ci lan?
Damaa gis yow daal ak dëgg yàlla sa xale moom dafay rafet macha allah.
Cri du dara du afresco.
Afresco.
Wa lii mooy afresco. Lekki xale la, serelak la, mboq lañ ko liggéeyee. Sa doom su koy lekk dina healthy, dina sawar 100% vitamine la am.
Afresco. Ay ma ko soxlaa fan laa ko mën a amee.
Yomb na bépp bitik boo dem marché wala supermarket mu fa wala nga daagu ba Barthès Serekunda nga jëndee ko fa mun ngaa dem tamit seen maakaan bu mag ba fële sa Banjul Liman Street bi nga am afresco. Mun nga leen call si 777 2398 wala 223 5801 wala 739 3301. Afresco mooy lekki xale bi gën.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. If you're just tuning in, this is QTV News in international news. Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara has said he will seek re-election in October, formally accepting the governing party's nomination to be its candidate and defying opponents who say the constitution forbids a third term. More in this report.
Ouattara, who has been in power since 2011, said in March he would not run again. However, his hand-picked successor, then Prime Minister Amadou Gon Coulibaly, died in July, leading the party to ask Ouattara to reconsider. The election is seen as the greatest test yet of the tenure stability achieved since a brief civil war in 2010 and 2011 killed about 3,000 people following Ouattara's first election win. On the country's Independence Day, which was 7th August, there were more demonstrations than celebrations. The FPI opposition party spokesperson, Isiaka Sankare, said Ivory Coast could have given another signal that would have allowed democracy to continue. FPI is the party of Ivory Coast's former president Laurent Gbagbo. On Saturday, it named his one-time Prime Minister Pascal Affi-N'Guessan as its candidate, ending speculation that Mr. Gbagbo might return from abroad to run. Despite the ferocity of protests at his decision, Ouattara sought to give the impression it was the will of the people that made him have a change of mind. I have decided to respond favorably to the call of my fellow citizens, Ouattara said in a televised speech. Given my previous promise, this decision represents a real sacrifice for me. His opponents say the two-term limit in the constitution bars him from running again, but Ouattara has said his first two mandates do not count under the new constitution adopted in 2016. He was twice barred from running in presidential elections because he was regarded as a foreigner, as his mother was from neighboring Burkina Faso. This despite the fact he had served as prime minister for 3 years. He has a reputation as a hard worker, keen on transparency and good governance, but his rivals criticize him for being too Western and says he backed the 2002 attempted coup d'etat, something he denies. Following the 2002 civil war, which split the country between the North and the South, the constitution was amended to remove the stipulation that both the presidential candidates' parents be Ivorian. This opened the way for Mr. Ouattara to take on President Laurent Gbagbo in November 2010. In polls, the UN peacekeeping mission in the country says he won. But Mr. Gbagbo's supporters reacted with outrage after years of seeing Mr. Ouattara demonized on state media as a foreigner and stooge of France, the former colonial power. They continue to cast doubts on his legitimacy to this day. Ouattara's stance to contesting is being repeated in near-identical fashion in Guinea-Conakry, where the 82-year-old Alpha Condé, having served 2 terms, has used the same amended constitution argument and also claimed it is the will of the people that has made him decide to run again. Babukar Si, Qtv News.
In an unexpected move, German's Deutsche Bank has reported complied with a subpoena from the Manhattan District Attorney to hand over financial records relating to American President Donald Trump. The bank has been the U.S. President's lender since the late 1990s. Loli M. Camara has more.
Deutsche Bank complied with a subpoena in relation to an investigation into U.S. President Donald Trump's tax records, according to reports in the German media on Wednesday. The bank reportedly provided the Manhattan District Attorney Office with detailed records, including financial statements and other material that the president provided to the bank. The investigations into Trump and the Trump Organization was launched after the disclosure of host payments to 2 women who said they had sexual relations with Trump before he became president. Trump has denied the claims. Deutsche Bank has been Trump's main lender since the 1990s, according to the paper. Investigators were reportedly heavily reliant on the document after other lines of investigations were halted by illegal action. The documents that the attorney's office has obtained are subject to grand jury secrecy rules, according to the report. The newspaper said they may never become public unless the office brings charges and introduces the documents as evidence at a trial. Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance did not share details about his proof, but the office told a federal judge earlier this week that it was a complex financial investigation that followed reports of possibly extensive and protracted criminal conduct at the Trump Organization. The investigation included charges of alleged insurance and bank fraud. Vance did not confirm or deny the newspaper report. Representatives for Trump and Deutsche Bank also did not respond to initial requests for comment from the paper or other media outlets. Vance launched investigations after Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, told Congress that the president would mislead business associates about the value of his assets. Deutsche Bank translates as German's bank and is a German global banking and financial services company with its headquarters in Frankfurt. The bank has more than 100,000 employees in over 70 countries. It is sometimes confused with Germany's central bank, the Bundesbank. The bank is on Germany's Xetra financial market with the ticker symbol DBK. The move by the bank is seen as unusual in that this sort of handover of records has been more commonly associated with rulers of African and Latin American countries. For a sitting American president, the move is unprecedented. For QTV News, I am Loli M. Kamara.
Now here is sports news. It looks as if FC Zurich, one of the top sides in Switzerland, will not be extending the contract of the 30-year-old Gambian national team captain who joined the club in 2017. The player is not featured in the latest squad photo issued by the club. Alaji Ahmed Cham tells us more.
Pamodu, fondly called Nda, played 18 games, making 2 assists in the just-ended Swiss Super League. The former FC Sion player played his last game for FC Zurich during their 2-1 defeat to Lausanne. Nda played 82 minutes before he was substituted and replaced by Hendrik Koide. The team finished the season a disappointing 7th in the 10th-team top tier. Pamodu used to play for Gambia Ports Authority in the Gambian Football Federation National First Division League and started his professional career with FC Wales before signing for St. Gallen in Switzerland and then on to FC Sion in 2013. Pamodu joined FC Zurich in 2017 on a 2-year deal and scored his first goal for the club in October 2017 in a 3-0 win over FC Lugano. His deal expired in the summer of 2019. However, he returned to the club and signed a 1-year contract on the 4th of September 2019 that kept him at the club till the end of the league in 2020. Pamodu made his debut for the Scorpions in 2008 and is now the national team captain and a very important player and leader for coach Tom Sanfe. In another news, Yankuba Jaju in pre-season friendly for FC Pau ahead of the French League 2 resumption scored in a 2-2 draw with Toulouse. Jaju gave FC Pau the lead in the 72nd minute of the game with a clinical finish minutes before Toulouse leveled the scores at 2-2. The former Real de Banjul and Generation Foot player, who was born in Pirang and also previously played for Brikama United, played 23 games for Pau, scoring 6 goals in the 2019-2020 season to help his club gain promotion from the French League 3 to the French League 2. Yankuba scored the second goal against Bordeaux in the round of 32 of the French Cup to help his team qualify to the round of 16. Due to his speed, skill and scoring ability, which saw him bag 21 goals in the 2016-2017 season, he was selected to be part of the home-based national team that competed in the CHAN qualifiers in 2017. Reporting for QTV News, Alaji Ahmed Cham.
The RC Congo international Chancel Mbemba scored twice to lead his club FC Porto to the Portuguese League and Cup double after a 2-1 victory over arch-rivals Benfica. More in this report.
The victory saw Porto complete the domestic double, having clinched the league title for the 17th time a few weeks earlier. The DR Congo defender scored both his side's goal from set pieces, the first after the Benfica goalkeeper made a poor clearance from a free kick. He then made it 2-0 in the 57th minute with a powerful header off another well-delivered set piece. Porto played more than half of the match a man down after Luis Diaz was sent off for a second bookable offence after 38 minutes. Benfica substitute Carlos Vinicius scored 6 minutes before the end of regulation time to make the conclusion of the game very tense for Porto, but they managed to stop Benfica and held on for the victory. Mbemba played 26 league games and 5 Europa League games in helping his team to win Group G of the Europa League in the 2019-2020 season. His performances have attracted admirers from the English Premier League clubs for the former Anderlecht Newcastle United defender. Babukar C, QTV News.
In a classic case of better late than never, the first African team to reach the quarterfinals at World Cup will finally receive the houses promised by the Cameroonian government. The houses were promised to them 30 years ago by President Paul Biya. Elijah Ahmad Cham tells us more again.
When the Cameroonian Indomitable Lions exploded on the global stage at Italia 90, they exited having made a statement and made a mark. They were the pride of Africans the world over. They finally shown what others had only previously hinted at, that African teams can make a positive impression on the world stage. Their success brought praise and promises. Everyone was pleased to hear that the government had promised to give each player a house in reward for their wonderful exploits. 30 years later, the promise is now being honored. Unfortunately, the captain of the team, Stephen Tatau, who died in July this year, Louis Paul Njeffi and Benjamin Massing, who were members of the team, are not around to receive their overdue reward. One alleged reason for the long wait is that a list of 44 names was submitted instead of only the 22 players. And then the minister in charge was changed, and it was swept under the carpet until Martin Ebewele, the head of ex-Indomitable Lions, wrote to the president in June 2020. The president gave the go-ahead for the houses to be allocated in the capital Yaoundé, the economic hub Douala, and the coastal city of Limbe. Roger Miller, the senior player of the team in Italy 90 and the roving ambassador of Cameroon, who played 5 games during the World Cup and scored 4 goals, thanked the president for the supreme recognition. Elijah Ahmad Cham, Qtv News.
Before we end this news bulletin, let's take a quick look at our main stories. Along with the 21-day curfew, there are new opening times for banks. We find out what they are. 842 people are stopped by immigration officials from making illegal entry into the country using unofficial border crossings. Bassa youths have joined with their district council and the Red Cross to take part in a fumigation exercise around the town. In international news, the presidents of Guinea-Conakry and Ivory Coast have recently announced their intentions to seek third term in office. We looked in detail at the case of Ivory Coast. According to German media, the country's Deutsche Bank has agreed to release President Trump's financial records to U.S. investigators. In sports news, Gambia's football captain is currently without a club as his recent employers haven't extended his current deal and he is absent from their latest squad photo. DRC Congo's Chancel Mbemba has a season to remember in Portugal as he scores twice to seal a league and cup double with FC Porto. It's a case of better late than never as the Cameroonian squad from Italia 90 finally get the houses promised to them 30 years ago. Well, that is all we have for you in this edition of QTV News. Do join us tomorrow, same time for more news. Have a good weekend and stay safe.